Everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today, we're going to look at Bouncer, written by Alejandro Jodorowsky and beautifully drawn by Francois Boucq. I'm probably saying that name wrong, maybe it's Boucq, but it's French. So please leave in the comments below if you know how to pronounce his name. I'm curious. But this is an amazing metaphysical Western, but for the most part, it's a pretty straight Western. But of course, it's written by Alejandro Jodorowsky, so there's some like metaphysical, cool, weird shit in here. It's a really beautiful book, published in 2016, even though these appeared throughout the early 2000s. This is a collection of maybe 7, thinner graphic novels of Bouncer, I believe. Maybe it's just 4, I don't know. But look how fat this is, guys. This is a monster of a book. I think it's over 400 pages. And it's nice that Humanoids in 2016 collected the whole saga. And guys, this is such a good read. I mean, if I was making like a top 100 comics of all time, this would easily make it. It is so good. It's amazing that all these pages, there's no lowering in quality by Boucq. Like a lot of artists, when they do a big project, you can tell near the end, they're like, the art gets a little skimpier and they're running out of steam. But you'd never guess it from here, even though these were 7 shorter works. But still, each one's pretty chunky. But Boucq just lays down beautiful stuff. And if you guys don't know Alejandro Jodorowsky's work, he's a just amazing filmmaker. And then in the 80s, he just was like, I'm going to start doing comics. And he, of course, created the Inkle with Mobius. And basically, he's written some of the best comics of all time. Just switch gears and stop making movies. I mean, he made a few. But pretty much the past 30 years, he's been a comic writer, a very prolific one. And almost everything he does is fascinating or downright brilliant, Covered by Boucq. It's pretty, all the art in this looks just like this. It's just a really well drawn, beautifully colored, page after page with no decline in quality. Lots of different colorists on this book. Francois Boucq does a little himself. He colors some of the pages. So we start off, it's, the Old West, the American West. Look at these colors. Really nice stuff. And so we see this guy being dragged by these Confederate soldiers. They're calling him a deserter. And he's like, you guys are crazy. They just declared that the war's over. The South lost. I was just going home to my wife and kids since the war's over. And they're like, no, you're a deserter. We're going to keep fighting our little platoon here. And we meet the leader of the platoon, Ralston, Captain Ralston. And, well, I'm sorry, that's his first name is Ralston. He's the captain. And he's just totally deluded. Doesn't care. The guy's trying to reason with him. He's like, the war's over. He's like, nah, you're a deserter. He gives him one chance to save his life. He gives him a sword and says, if you beat me in combat, you can leave. But he doesn't. He gets whooped. Look how nice this art is. I didn't know this, but Boucq was a humorous artist a lot of his career. He started like in the early 70s. And for like, a decade or two, he was doing like satiric, funny stuff. I can see it in the faces. Some of the faces, I could tell this guy would be good at comedy. So the guy tries to run the quote unquote deserter, and Ralston runs him through. And then we see them writing. Look at this panel, guys, this vista. Beautiful stuff. And they're basically looking for provisions. They're just acting like, we're still at war. We're going to find some trouble. They come to this farmhouse. They ask for provisions. The matriarch of the place says, we barely have enough food to feed ourselves. We can't. And Ralston doesn't like that answer. So they burn down the house. They rape the women. They take whatever they want. Here we meet Ralston's second in command. A very interesting character. He almost all of his dialogue, he quotes poetry from literature. And but other than that, he's just a sadistic, evil bastard, just like everyone else. But he's obviously educated. There he is. And so they ride off after their horrible butchery. Look at this, guys. I also found out that Boucq was going to take over Lieutenant Blueberry at one point. And he even went to the American Southwest to do research. And you can see it here. He would have done a great Lieutenant Blueberry, but I'm glad he didn't, because maybe he wouldn't have done Bouncer. That's some spectacular stuff. That too. So now we cut away. We're in this kind of like hidden mesa, hidden valley in the cliffs out here in the desert. And we're introduced to Blake. And Blake is Ralston's brother. He has now traded in his guns and his bad ways to become a priest. He's married to this woman here. And we see their son, Seth. He's late for dinner because he's exploring the canyon. And he sees this place that has a sign, danger, don't enter. And he finds like this little pueblo building, like in the cliff dwelling. And when he goes inside, he sees like a mummified corpse. And on the corpse's gun belt are these like beautifully, not inscribed, these beautiful guns. So he finally makes his way back home. And the father's kind of mad at him because he's late for dinner, but he's even more mad. He's like, how do you explain these revolvers? Why are your names engraved on them? And the father says, you went to the Forbidden Canyon. I told you never to go there. And then right then, Ralston shows up with his platoon. He makes Seth hide in the basement, in the cellar. And he gets ready for his family reunion with Ralston, which he knows is not going to go well. He knows what Ralston's like. And basically, it turns out Ralston's there for a diamond, the biggest diamond in the world. And I guess at one point, these brothers, they've all been searching for it at one point. Blake doesn't care anymore now that he's a priest. He doesn't care about worldly goods or anything like that. So things get ugly, as you figured they would. His soldiers kill their dog. And they start roughing up the father and mother. And they're basically torturing him to find out where the diamond is. And he's like, I don't know. I've never found it. I never looked. And Ralston doesn't like his answers, and he chops his head right off. And then they kill the mother. The whole time Ralston can see this up from the floorboards, through the floorboards, as his parents' blood drips down upon him through the cracks in the floor. Oh man, it's grisly. He escapes and gets on a horse and rides away. Some of these faces I just love. I love the way Boucq, it's a very individualistic style. Probably from being a humorous artist, I bet. So now we're in the town of Barrow. This is going to be the main setting of many of these stories. And Seth rides into town. Before his father was killed, he said, if anything happens, you got to go to Barrow City and find your uncle, who's a bouncer at the Inferno Saloon. So that's what Seth's attempting to do. This Native American says, I'll take you there. Here's our first look at Barrow. It's a pretty seedy place. It's like Deadwood, you know. 90% of the people live there are criminals and scofflaws and ne'er-do-wells. People are just shooting each other in the streets. It's a very lawless town. They have a sheriff, but he's not very good at his job, or just doesn't care. So they get to the Inferno Saloon. The Indian tries to steal his horse. Seth pulls his those guns that he found, one of the guns on the Native American, and then he wants the gun. He's like, "Give me that!" Chases him in the bar. He gets kicked out because they don't serve Indians there, and he rides off with Seth's horse. And then all these badasses in here, they start basically just taking his gun. They're just like, this is ours now. But then they start fighting amongst themselves. The whole time we see this silent guy up in the rafters, watching everything like a hawk. So they all start fighting each other, killing each other. And then finally, we're introduced to Bouncer, who was the guy in the rafters. And he basically says, "You guys leave the kid alone. Give him back his guns." They don't see things the same way, and they try to shoot Bouncer. He kills them both. So we realize pretty soon that Bouncer is very formidable at gunplay. So the next day, Bouncer is taking Seth. He rides him out to his parents' house. The vultures are already eating his parents. So he burns their corpses. Pretty gnarly. And the coloring in this is really good. Just all the keeps changing depending on the time of day. Some colorists don't even remember to do that. It's like, this is a different time of day. They really capture nighttime scenes, early morning, dusk. Really impressive stuff. So Bouncer sits down Seth and he says, "I'm going to tell you the history of our family. It's about my mom. It all starts with my mom, Lola, the wildest whore in the West." So this is Seth's grandmother. So she was like 8 years old. Apaches murdered her parents, raped her, left her for dead. She became a prostitute when she was like, 10. She was basically sold and traded. And at a very young age, she gave birth to Blake, Seth's father, her first son. She didn't want him, but she had no choice. Then at the age of 13, she has Ralton, the Confederate captain. And then she seduced a wealthy banker and got some money. And she just continued her wild ways. She was tough as nails. She could outdrink any man. She could outplay any man in poker. Any guy try to stiff her, any John, she would just hold a gun to their head and be like, "Pay up, drunk." She was tough as nails. Then when she was pregnant with Bouncer, her last son, she really didn't want another kid. She actually threw herself off a cliff just to self-abort the baby. But it didn't work. So now she's stuck with 3 rugrats, and she's tired of being a prostitute. So she buys this little saloon pretty soon. It's like this giant cabaret. And so these 3 boys grow up in this milieu. They're just fighting each other all the time, fighting other kids. Of course, their mom is no good influence on them. She wants them to learn how to fight and even commit crimes. So by the time they're young teenagers, these kids are like hardened criminals. And one night, there's a ruckus outside. Blake goes outside. I guess he took care of it. But we can see that why he became a preacher later on. He seems to have mystical visions. He comes back with these 2 beautiful guns. Of course, these are the guns Seth found. And he says, "I saw death standing by the corpses, and she handed me these guns. Guard them well," she said. "They'll never miss their target, for I crafted them myself." So it's almost like these are mystic guns. Very Jodorowsky touch there. And so we see here that Lola sends her kids on a mission to rob this train. She's like Mom Barker, Really beautiful art, man. Look at that. They blow up the bridge, the train crashes. The beautifully drawn train crashes. And it seems like now that Blake has those two guns, he's just like, it says he's become one with death. Look at him. He is just like a angel of destruction. And so this is how they found the diamond, this legendary diamond. It was in the safe of the train. So Lola knew about this, the hidden valley here where Blake lived, the little pueblos in the cliffside. And she was, her and her kids, her three sons, went there till things cooled down. And of course, everyone becomes stir crazy pretty quick. Her three sons are going crazy. They're like, "Ma, we got to get out of here. This place sucks." And she's like, "Shut up. We got to stay here for a little while till the heat's off." And they're just getting more and more argumentative and combative. And it gets to the point where they're like aiming guns at each other. And then it turns into a full-on gunfight. Blake shoots Bouncer in his shoulder and shoots Ralston right in the eye. The mother tries to calm him down, and she says, basically, she kicks him out of the house. She says, "Get out of here. I'll decide what to do with the diamond on my own." So, Blake still loves his brothers in a weird way. So he cauterizes the wounds. So this is how Bouncer lost his arm, and this is how Ralston lost his eye. When they return to the cabin, Lola's hung herself. And, this is so crazy. Ralston says, "Guys, I bet she swallowed it, the diamond, because they can't find the diamond anywhere. She must have swallowed it." So the other brother's like, "No, you can't." And he's like, "Shut up, I'm doing it." And he cuts open her guts to try to find the diamond, but it's not there. So then basically Blake says, "You desecrated our mother's body. Get the fuck out of here." And Ralston says, "Good riddance to you. I'm out of here. You'll never see me again." But he says he'll be back for the diamond one day. And then young Bouncer, just says, "Blake, I'm out of here. Don't try to find me. This family's fucked up. You're a terrible person, basically. I'll do better on my own." And then he puts his mother in that coffin. And that's what we saw Seth find at the beginning. So now we're back to the present, and Seth has basically dedicated his life to killing Ralston, and Bouncer agrees to help him. It's his brother, of course, but yeah, he's not too sentimental about his brother because he's an evil piece of shit. Another beautiful panel here, beautiful painted colors. So then we cut away, we see a stagecoach, and it's being held up by these masked bandits. And there's a young, beautiful woman on the stagecoach. And these bandits, they kill everyone. Everyone except for the woman. And as we see the leader of the bandits close up, we realize this is Ralston. We see the scar in his eye poking out from his sunglasses. And for some strange reason, all those men want to have their way with the school teacher. And for some reason, Ralston says, "Let go of the girl. Take your claws off of her." And he gives her a horse and she rides away. One of his men says, "I don't get it. Why let the girl go? You said no witnesses." And he says, "I have my reasons." So the sheriff finds the school teacher and she's safe. Now we're back in that hidden canyon. We see all these amazing, Native American, hieroglyphics on the wall and art. I love this panel. Oh, look at that. So they're in the hidden valley here. I think they make ranch dressing there. But it might have another name. I think it's called the Hidden Valley, though. The scenes in here are just gorgeous, the scenery. So he's taking him to this guy, Crazy Butterfly. And we'll meet him very soon. Now we go back to the flashback. Bouncer went back to Barrow City and tried to take over the saloon again, his mom's saloon. And guys had already basically squatted it and basically just said, you guys left, we own it now. And they beat the shit out of him, and he's got no recourse. So he ends up becoming a drunk, just living in the alleys, begging for change, being abused by everyone. And one night, they tar and feather him and beat the shit out of him. He manages to crawl up on his horse, and the horse takes him, I don't know why, took him all the way to this hidden valley. And when he wakes up, he sees this crazy Scotsman blowing a bagpipe with the Scotch cap and all. And he basically rescued him, saved him. And turns out that he was a gunfighter named Silver Cane who changed his ways. He had a change of heart in a kind of a midlife crisis. And was like, I don't want to kill anyone anymore. So he became Crazy Butterfly. He kind of became this hermit. But he's also just like a legendary gunman. So now we're back to the present. Bouncer is taking Seth there because he wants Crazy Butterfly to train Seth just like he trained himself. And as soon as they open the door to his cabin, they see Crazy Butterfly with a giant bear dead on top of him. And he's like, move him, I'm suffocating. So it's kind of weird, their timing. They got there just as Crazy Butterfly just had finished fighting a bear. And he says he's done for, though. He says, yeah, I won my last fight, but I'm a goner. So they basically leave him for the dogs and the vultures. I think that's how he wanted to pass this mortal coil that way. And so it's up to Bouncer to teach Seth. He's going to teach him the ways. Meanwhile, we see the school teacher. The mayor is introducing her to her schoolhouse, showing it her schoolhouse. There's actually cages in the schoolhouse because there's, the bad kids who are the sons and daughters of the miners. They actually segregate them behind bars. And she says, get rid of them. I'm going to teach my own way. It's bullshit. And now we see the training of young Seth. And I kind of like this. This is very like Shaolin Temple type stuff. Bouncer puts him through all these tests of courage and will, balance and strength. Look at this, some more beautiful shit. I'm a total sucker for this shit. He also, because it's a Jodorowsky comic, he gives him some, I think, peyote. And, it's peyote. This is part of the training. And after Seth ingests it, Bouncer turns into Crazy Butterfly in his eyes, in his mind. And of course, he's like the spiritual guide. He gives him wisdom and stuff like that. Looks like Seth is just tripping balls. I really love Jodorowsky's stuff. So now we're back at the Inferno Saloon. And at this point, Bouncer is he's the law there of this saloon. And these two guys are just these big dumb lugs who don't really respect his authority, and they try to fight him. Seth joins in on it. Little Seth is getting into the fray here, and he's pretty good. It looks like Bouncer trained him pretty well. Look at the coloring in this sequence, because it's the Inferno Saloon. It does look like the fires of hell are illuminating this scene. As soon as they beat the shit out of these two dumb brothers, and the brothers get up and buy him a drink. It's like that scene in every Western, like, you're a good fighter, let me buy you a drink. So they get cleaned up, and basically Bouncer says, Seth, you got to go to school, though. You can't be some ignorant idiot, And he looks in the schoolroom and he sees the teacher. And he says, I'm leaving. But the teacher comes out and says, stop, are you Seth? You're the one I've been waiting for. So she makes him come in. And of course, she's so beautiful. He's just like, okay, I guess school's not so bad. And meanwhile, because the teacher had all those demands when she moved in, a lot of the town elders, like the mayor, they like have these guys go to rough her up. They're like, teach that uppity bitch a lesson. And so these 3 goons show up. They don't like what she's teaching either. She's kind of teaching these kids what I guess today would be called critical race theory. She's basically saying, yeah, that we cheated the Native Americans left and right. And it wasn't good. It wasn't just. So they're like, we don't like this kind of bullshit. The CRT. So they're totally roughing her up. And then Seth comes to the rescue. He's got his 2 mystical guns. And he mows them down. But he gets shot himself. And the teacher's very impressed. She says, thank you, my brave knight. So a few days later, he wakes up. He's been out for days because he was pretty injured. Oh, I'm sorry. He's been out for 2 weeks. And he gets out of bed, straps on his guns, and he's going to find the school teacher. He wants to protect her still. He also still wants his revenge on Ralston, his uncle. Shit. Look at this beautiful stuff. Amazing. So he finds the school teacher. She's safe. And basically he's just like, he's surprised that she's there because he was on his way to find Ralston. And he does find Ralston. And we see Ralston surrounded by all these important people in the city. And he's talking about his charity. And everyone's beaming at him like he's a fucking saint. And wouldn't you know it, the school teacher says, I want you to meet someone very special to me, my father, Captain Ralston. And of course, Seth is just looking him in the eye. And just like, oh man. Of course, flashback of Ralston murdering his family. So he's got to choke it down. And so Seth goes back to the bar and is just shooting it up in a drunken frenzy. I mean, because it's a total shit situation. If he kills Ralston, the beloved father of the school teacher, he's going to lose her. But he really wants to kill Ralston. He wants his revenge. So they come up with a plan. Seth is going to take her to the next town over to see Macbeth. There's a theater there. It's their first date, real date. And they cook up this plan where they basically leak information to Ralston's gang. Make it known that there's all this gold on the stagecoach. Knowing that, Ralston won't be able to resist. And then the daughter will see her father for what he truly is. So the bandits come down. They're chasing the stagecoach. Pretty great action scene here. As it fell, the cherry blossom spoke to me. I disappear once, but you mourn me forever. That's kind of shit the captain second in command spouts all the time. So the stagecoach falls over. Bouncer, it turns out, was the driver the whole time. And the daughter's like, what's going on? Like, she's completely confused. And when his mask comes off, he says, oh, you're going to kill me? And then he asks his daughter, he says, my poor daughter, can you love the man who killed me? Come to me, Deborah, help me up. And she does, she loves her father. But then Ralston just can't hold back his evil ways, and he grabs his own daughter as a hostage. And he rides off. The poetry spouting guy, I guess, bought his ticket. He's dead. And then Ralston throws his daughter off the horse and says, "You're not my daughter anymore. Now go." And Bouncer hunts after Ralston. And Ralston is heading back to the place where they hold up with the mother. And he's lost a lot of blood, so he's actually talking to the mother. She's like a ghost. And he finally finds the diamond. And it turns out it was in her vagina. Nobody would have ever found the Eye of Cain there. She finally gave birth to something beautiful. And he dies. And Bouncer takes the diamond. Bouncer says, "All the hate left me, only love was left." And he kind of hid the diamond in the church because he was just like, this diamond's cursed. And he basically gives all this land to Seth and his new bride, the school teacher. They're going to get married. And he just ends up back at the Inferno being the bouncer. Now we got a new chapter. So this is kind of like a murder mystery. On the day they were going to hang Ogre Jim, the city hangman was found dead in his room, killed by a green coral snake. And so there's no one to hang Ogre Jim, and everyone really wants him hung because this guy is a child eater. He has a taste for children, I guess human veal. So, of course, the town is up in arms. But they're like, we don't have a hangman. We can't do it. Nobody wants to be the hangman. Because basically the hangman is the most hated person in any town. So all the civic leaders, and I guess bouncers included, they draw straws. And, of course, Bouncer gets the short one. So it's up to Bouncer to kill this guy. God, look at him. Just a total sick-looking pervert. As they're walking up to the crowd, this mother's holding her baby, and Ogre Jim tries to break away because he's like, hungry. I want that baby. He's like that guy in Austin Powers. So they take him to the gallows and they hang him. And it's weird, after they hang him, everyone starts yelling at him, "Aren't you ashamed, you filthy butcher?" It's so weird because they were actually calling for his death, screaming for his blood. But they have this weird love-hate thing with the hangman. Look at this here. One of them chopped off the Ogre Jim. His arm as a souvenir. And he's calling Bouncer a butcher. I heard that was a thing back then. If someone was hanged, people would like chop off their fingers or their toes and keep it as a souvenir. And his friend at the bar, she's like the madam. She's like, "Ah, you sucker." So she basically doesn't like him either for being the hangman. So she tells him about his big problems brewing. There's this guy named Clark Cooper. And he's upstairs trying to buy the Inferno from Lord Diablo. He's the mysterious owner of the saloon. And I guess Cooper's been buying up all the burlesque houses and bars in town. Also, like, tons of the farmland. He's like a typical Western villain, you know. He intimidates small farmers and forces them to sell him land, but he also does it to saloons and stuff. He also brought along his star attraction, who Naomi calls a talentless bitch. And here we see Cooper. So Lord Diablo turns him down and won't sell. But basically, Cooper makes a veiled threat as he leaves. It's like, there's going to be trouble for you. He doesn't like when people don't bow to his will. Here we meet Job, the little person who works at the saloon. He's like Lord Diablo's assistant. Wow, look at that. God, there's so much great story packed into these little graphic novels. There's like, man, so many great characters and all the dialogue's entertaining. Just really well written stuff. So now we're introduced to this guy. I'll get his name in a second. And he discovers gold out in the desert. Of course, you have to be very careful back then. If you found gold, if anyone finds out, there's so many bad guys around, they'll just take your land from you, force you to sell it. And now we see Cooper rounding up his mercenaries and gang. And now we meet Blabbermouth. He's basically the stool pigeon of the town. He, sells information, peddles information. And he's always like saying, hey, bouncer, give me $1. I got some news for you. So I guess he tells him that Cooper is just hired 5 thugs. One of the leaders named Garrick. We're going to see Garrick throughout this book. He's a badass. And so basically, Cooper plans on taking someone else's land once again. He's even already paid off the sheriff, so the sheriff will just be a friendly witness. And then, I think I missed something in the plot. Oh, I'm sorry, before they do that, they're actually on their way over to kill, to forcefully take the saloon, to force Lord Diablo to sign over the ownership papers. There's Garrick, the big bald guy. He's a mean motherfucker. The sheriff's just outside watching. He's not going to help. And we get a nice action scene, just bouncer kicking ass with his gun fu. Some really fun stuff. I guess because he's a director, I could picture this stuff being filmed. Like in my head, I almost picture it as I'm watching a movie scene sometimes. And so Garrick grabs Naomi. It's kind of a standoff. And he escapes. But all the other guys, Bouncer killed everyone else with the help of Job, the little guy up here, I meant to say. He questioned the sheriff. And, everyone knows the sheriff's corrupt. It's not like it's news, right? And he walks away, but he still gives him a warning. He's like, you better look after yourself. So here we finally meet Lord Inferno. Look at him. He looks like a Mexican wrestler. He wears this weird ski mask looking thing. And he tells Bouncer, he says, listen, I'm dying soon. I want you to take over the saloon. I willed it over to you. And I want you to incinerate my body in fire when I die. So he tells Naomi, she's happy for him, and he he asked for her hand in marriage. It's interesting. She tells him, she's like, you're a good enough guy. I kind of like you. But I'm still in love with this one guy. Hard luck separated us, but I've never forgotten him. But basically agreed to go through with it. She's like, yeah, I'll probably never see him again anyway. And I'll do my best to try to love you as good as I can. So they're getting ready for the wedding. They get a nice wedding dress for her. And the guy who found the gold happens to be walking down the street with his dog Mocho, the three-legged dog. And of course he tries to get a drink at the saloon and he gets a lot of blowback. These guys are like, your kind's not allowed here. And he beats the shit out of him. But then it looks like one of them's got a gun and Bouncer shoots him. Says, leave that guy alone, basically. And who should this guy turn out to be? Because Naomi comes out, it's her long-lost love. And they embrace. And she basically just says, sorry, Bouncer. This is the guy I was telling you about. I got to go off with him. And Bouncer's just like, ah, shit. He throws his jacket in the mud that he just paid a lot for. Look at these great nighttime scenes, his colors. So now we see this Native American guy, and he's sneaking around the rooftops, and he crawls into the window of the mayor, and he throws a green coral snake at him, and it kills him. And the whole time he's telling the mayor, like, 300 innocent souls, White Elk's tribe. Do you remember? He killed them all. And then he escapes into the night. So now there's 2 people killed from a green coral snake. Sheriff starts to realize something's up here. We see those 2 brutal brothers from a last graphic novel. And the Bouncer's basically just drowning his sorrows. Like all month, he's just been drinking to excess, trying to forget Naomi. I like this. He just has a puke bowl next to his table. He just pukes into it nonchalantly. So it's Naomi sent him a letter. And she tells him the whole story. How she lived in the South. Her father was a plantation owner. And her best friend as a little girl was Tom, a boy her age. As they grew older, their friendship turned into passion and love. The northern soldiers came, burned the plantations, raped all the women, freed the slaves. And Naomi was raped by 20 soldiers. And they basically drafted Tom into the Northern Army. So that's how she became a whore. She had no money. But now that Tom has got his gold mine, she's been helping him work it. They live in the mountains. And she's happy. And she just wants a Bouncer to, forgive her, basically. Explain herself. So then he goes to the opium den. And here we meet Yin Lee, who will be a very important character. She gives him opium. He has a total opium vision. Here's some more Jodorowsky type stuff. The art here looks so different to me. It almost looks like, just some mainstream comic book art. And he has this trippy vision, all these butterflies, and Yun Lee's in his dream. So the sheriff shows up and wakes him up with a pail of water. And he says, you're needed. You're the hangman, remember? We got 2 people that need to be hung. So he takes a bath, cleans himself up, and Yun Lee professes her love for him. I guess because she was in his vision, they were like spiritually united. Emily's dialogue is so weird. She's almost weirder than that guy who just spouts poetry. It's all like haikus. Everything she says is very poetic. And lost in the shadow, a modest flower still senses the presence of the sun. That's what she just says this shit all the time. It seems like it would be kind of annoying if you knew that person. You'd be like, just what do you want? Speak plainly. But she's totally in love with a Bouncer. So Bouncer finds out who he's got to hang, and who should it be but Tom and Naomi. And basically Cooper and his men went out there, totally roughed him up, said, sign the deed over to us. And they had to sign to save their own lives. But then, there's the book ribbon. They were going to rape Naomi, and so Tom wasn't going to have it. Grabs a gun and killed some of the bad guys before they subdued him. Of course, they're rich, powerful guys, so they told the story to the sheriff and made it look like Tom and Naomi were the guilty party here, and they're going to be hung. Of course, the bouncer's like, I'm not doing this. And the sheriff's like, you got to. You can't just pick and choose. You're not the law, you just execute the law. Oh, I love this thing here where basically they pour booze down the bouncer's throat. It's like, this'll settle your nerves. And I love the scene here where he's drunk, and this is how he sees the world. It's all queasy looking, queasy colors. Everyone's a little warped. It's kind of neat. And basically he's got extra drunk because he just doesn't want to do this. It's his friend, the woman he loves, actually. So he does it. He's half drunk, but the other guy basically holds his hand to it and like pulls the lever for him. Bouncer tells Blabbermouth, he says, I want you to find out where Garrick and his gang are holed up. He's gonna get revenge. You know how Bouncer is. You don't truck with that forgiveness bullshit. I believe this sequence is Boucq colored. Because I remember, like, all of a sudden being like, wow, these colors are really deep and rich. These are really nice. So now we just got a great revenge action sequence for a bunch of pages. Really great stuff. Jodorowsky's such a good storyteller. I was reading this last night in bed, and I was like, I gotta get to sleep. Stop reading, and I couldn't stop until I passed out, and the book fell on my nose. It's heavy, too. But it's, I was so enthralled. I didn't want it to end. So, it happens to be that the Barracks gang was out trying to get more land. So this family is basically a couple of old timers and some widow with her son. He's all like, they're on their way here. I'm gonna help you though. Just take my orders. I'll get us out of this if I can. I know what I'm doing, and they trust him. So Garrick's men surround the house, and it's just this great siege scene where like Bouncer's kind of like their sergeant, just saying, okay, you go over here. And it turns out the old couple are pretty good shots, and they're doing pretty good. Even the little kid, he's just like, give me a gun. Pretty brave little kid. I like how the old lady keeps shooting guys, and her husband keeps saying, that's another nice shot, mother. Nice shot, old woman, right through the heart. But then they send one of their guys, Garrick sends one of his men to the roof with explosives. Oh, I'm sorry, not explosives, inflammables. He pours basically oil down the chimney. But before he can light it, at first, Bouncer shoots through the roof and kills him. Man, this is just a great action scene. This is why comics are better than movies. I can't remember a movie I've seen in a long time that is this exciting to me, you know? It's some really good action. And so the roof does catch fire, though. The whole building does, actually, from all the shooting and stuff. And as soon as they break down the door, they get a shotgun blast in the face, 2 of them. But, you know, they're running out of breath, oxygen. They're going to have to leave the building soon. I didn't mention that Cooper has 2 sons. They're holding back. Because, you know, Cooper doesn't want his son getting his hands dirty. He's all like, you let the guys I paid do the dirty work. You just watch. And so basically, once again, Bouncer's pretty heroic. And he says, guys, you go out the back. I'm running out the front. I'll take these guys on. Hopefully, it'll give you time to escape. But alas, that is not to pass. And they shoot the old man. The old woman gets another one. Kills another guy. And then they shoot the old lady. Jodorowsky, like all good writers, like these characters just appeared 10 pages ago. And he sets up this whole scenario. We don't even know who they are really. But by the end of the scene, you totally care about them. And their deaths are totally tragic. And you're like, oh no, not the old lady. But that's some good writing. Just really brief characterization through the dialogue. We get a sense of this crotchety old woman. As tough as nails. It's just like, I really was actually moved. I was like, no, not her. I like this how Bouncer ties one of the bad guy's corpses to be a shield in front of him. And he's getting closer and closer to the bad guys, taking him out. But then, of course, when he falls over, then it's not good because he's tied to this guy. Mocho attacks him. I didn't mention that either. Once Tom was hung, Mocho kind of de facto became Bouncer's dog. He kept following Bouncer around, and Bouncer's just like, get the hell out of here. But he wouldn't leave, so it's Bouncer's dog now. And the little kid comes out of nowhere and kills Garrick right when he's about to kill Bouncer. And he gets the real story from Garrick of what happened. And it turns out that Tom didn't kill anyone. It was the Cooper boys started arguing. Because I guess the older Cooper boy, this guy, he was always just belittling his younger brother and humiliating him. And the father is just like tough old bastard. He's just like, you guys settled this with a gunfight. I'm tired of you guys fighting all the time. And the younger brother got the drop on his older brother and kills him. And of course, they blamed it all on Tom. The brother's wounded, and the father actually pulls a gun on the younger brother and says, finish what you started, kill your brother. Crazy. Cooper's a big bastard. I like after he dies, the little kid says, a real piece of shit, that one. So they take all the corpses and put them on horses and send them back to town. And of course the sheriff's like, what the hell is this? It's a funeral cortege, he says. Meanwhile, Bouncer is back at the opium den, being tended by Yun Li. Her mother, of course, doesn't like this whole situation. She's like, why do you love this stupid man? He only has one arm. And before his wounds are fully healed, he gets news from Blabbermouth. And he finds out that Clayton was the one who spread word that Tom had struck gold. He was from the bank. So even though his wounds haven't healed, he's like, I'm taking care of business. So he climbs up, he sees Clayton's apartment, he sees a light in the window, climbs up this tree. I really love these two panels here. And this third one. These are all amazing. And he finds Clayton dead, and this old Native American man sitting there in a chair. And he says, I didn't kill him, it was the snake. So he's the one who's been going around throwing green coral snakes at people. He tells Bouncer he was waiting for you because he's his father. And then we cut back to the opium den. And Bouncer stumbles in because his wounds reopened. And once again, Yun Li takes care of him. And he finds out the whole story. He recites the story to Yun Li, what his father told him. So apparently, he used to hang out with Lola when she had her like traveling whorehouse in a wagon. She was basically a slave. And he was also her guardian angel. And he would protect her if any of the Johns got uppity. And I guess they developed feelings for each other and started having sex. When he has to leave because he was defending Lola once again, Bouncer says it's the only time I ever saw my mother cry. So Lola, she's a hard-bitten gal, but she does have a little bit of heart, at least for this guy. And then years later, when he's a little boy, he always dreamed his father would come for him, and he does. He basically kind of every night would come and take Bouncer, little Bouncer, to learn the ways of the Indian. Teach him the rituals, the prayers, how to build a sweat lodge, how to build a canoe, how to be friends with wolves. He says, now, my son, you are a true Indian, because he confronted this wolf, and the wolf was friendly. But one day they were out together. These bad guys shot the wolf, their pet wolf, because the father still had a price on his head. And then his father disappeared off this cliff, and he never thought he'd see him again. So they hug, and that's when he passes out. And that's when his father takes him to Yun Li's opium den. So Widow Malone, the woman who, she survived that attack on the house that the old couple were killed in. And the townspeople build her a new roof. And they're like, you've given us an example how to fight back. Cooper's men, we're tired of submitting to him. We're going to basically all unite and kick his ass and take our land back that he stole. I love Cooper's beard. It's just like something from Greek mythology. So now the new hangman is coming to town. I guess Bouncer had to serve until the new hangman could arrive. And I guess her first job is going to be to kill Jehovah, Miguel, and Cristiano Villalobos, the three angels of death. I love the way he draws these guys. They look like they're a grandfather, a father, and a son. Crime trio. So we meet the hangman, but it's a woman. Even though her name's Anthony Grant, they're like, what? We were expecting a man, especially with that name. It turns out she's from hangman stock. Her father, her grandfather were hangmen, and now she is. And interesting to note, she smokes cigars, just like Bouncer's mom does. And she just looks like something out of a comic book. She's a great character. And it looks like Bouncer is smitten with her already. She smokes cigars just like my ma did. If you've read Jodorowsky or seen his movies, he does have a lot of like Oedipal themes running through his movies and books. So then there's this one guy they're going to hang. Everyone at the bar is like, that's bullshit. We can't let it happen. We got to stop this hanging. It sounds like the guy's pretty guilty. So Anthony is getting ready to do her duty. Actually, you know what she looks like? She looks like she could be a weird, like, Milton Caniff femme fatale. If Milton Caniff drew a little more weirder stuff. So these, the two Bruiser brothers try to break up the hanging, and it looks like Anthony can take care of herself. She kicks one in the nuts, kicks the other one in the face, and all these guys come up and they're like, get the whore, get the filthy whore. They got their guns drawn, but then Bouncer, of course, shows up, is not going to let it happen, shoots the guns out of everyone's hands. And he saves Anthony's life. Ah, look at that. Well, I guess that guy was the brother of these two dumb brothers. That's why they so wanted to save his life. So Yun Li sees Bouncer on a horse with Anthony, and she knows she's lost. She's lost him to her. And so he gets his reward for saving her life. And of course, it turns out she's this total like dominatrix who gets off on slapping him around. And he seems like he's kind of into it. Meanwhile, we see Bouncer's father skulking about again. He's got another person to kill. Some pretty kinky stuff going on here, especially for the Old West. And now we see this guy's something in the town. I can't remember. This isn't the mayor. It might be the sheriff. Whatever he is. He's basically like a bigwig in town. And he succeeds, though. He coated the blade in green coral snake venom. And so this guy's a goner. And then he jumps out the window again and escapes into the night. Oh, that was the judge. So they say, get the sheriff. We got to find this guy. I'm going to take some water here. Sorry, guys, how long this one is, but I mean, you saw how fat this book is. And I really want to show it all off. Meanwhile, back in the prairie lands or whatever, in the outskirts, we see that widow and her son and all the other people, all the other farmers, and they're getting ready to greet the bad guys with resistance. Hey, you know, guys, I'm so sorry. Those three, the grandfather, the father, and the son, they weren't going to be hanged. They were brought into town by Cooper to take care of these guys. He basically wanted the best killers in the land. And we see this is kind of interesting here, just showing how fast their attack is. Nobody can even see what's happening. And one of them's got a little monkey, a mean little monkey. And he helps them out when they do their crimes. Here's the youngest one. The youngest one has the monkey. And then Bouncer runs into his father, trying to escape the law. He's in an alley. And he's a little wounded, I think, too. And he says, "Take me to the Inferno, to Lord Diablo. He's an old friend. He'll hide me." And then all of a sudden, Lin Yi's in the middle of the street with a knife. And her jealousy has consumed her. And it looks like she's going to kill Diablo. And he talks her out of it, talks her down. So she drops her knife. So now Cooper's torturing the widow and her little kid. They're saying, "Tell us who helped you kill Garrick and his men." They're chopping off her fingers. Look at that. It's gruesome. And the son breaks down and he says, it was the bouncer. And now it's the sheriff's turn. The sheriff, you know, Job, the guy who works at the saloon, he says, "Sheriff, I know who the murderer is. I put sleeping pills in Bouncer's drink so he wouldn't wake up because I knew he'd be mad at me for ratting him out. But really, he's helping Lord Diablo. And Lord Diablo takes his sack out with a green coral snake and throws it at the sheriff and kills him. They throw him in a pig pen, just like in Deadwood, to get rid of the remains. Now we cut back to the outskirts. Cooper is leading his men and those three assassins. And they're basically saying, we gotta remind people who really runs this city. And Blabbermouth shows up and he found out what's going on. And he says, Bouncer, man, they're all coming for you. It's going to be an all-out assault on you. They're sick of you meddling, you know, helping out the little guy all the time. We see the little monkey. It's such an evil little monkey. And the brothers show up. I'm sorry, the three assassins, the grandfather, father, and son. Really kind of weird coloring there and just line work even. It doesn't look like anything else in the book. And these guys seem to be very good at what they do. They're dodging in and out. They disappear. Doesn't know what's going on. Bolos fly out of the sky. Wrap around his neck. I love how Mojo, the dog, attacks the monkey. And it looks like Bouncer takes them all out. Oh, I'm sorry, he takes one of them out, but then Anthony and Job help him out and kill the rest of the assassins. And then Diablo knows the rest, you know, Cooper and the rest are coming. He knows it's not over yet. So look at this, it's like a small army that's trying to take out Bouncer. He's up against all of them. I know I don't have time or copyright money to pay, but all the dialogue on this is just spot on. It's just great dialogue. Jodorowsky is just so good. Totally recommend this to anyone. This is such a good read. I think I just read this last year, and then I reread it, you know, last 2 days. And I was like, I want to read this again in a month. It's like, it was so good. And also, it's just a feast for the eyes. So we got this epic battle going on. So that woman we saw before, Cooper's kind of girlfriend, his main star attraction. She's kind of our burlesque star. She's like using this Gatling gun on all the townspeople who are rising up to finally fight against Cooper. And the son says, I'm getting out of here. You're a bloodthirsty degenerate. And she turns the machine gun on him and blows him away. His dad, Cooper, he says, well done. That rotten to the core son didn't deserve any mercy. He's such a bastard. And so the fight continues. Cooper's trying to escape, but he doesn't. And everyone wants to hang him. And of course, Bouncer's the good guy. He's like, no, he needs a civilized judgment. And now we find out the whole reason what the hell's going on here. So, Bouncer's father is talking about his village. It was a village of snake worshippers. It was in the same area that Barrow City is now. The Nakache tribe, they were called. And then 6 murderers showed up one night and killed the whole village. And of course, those 6 men were like the founders of the city. All the people that Bouncer's father has been taking out with the snake. We've seen all these guys get killed. And Cooper was the 6th. And so I guess he knew Job even back then, Bouncer's father. And he's telling this whole story about his father. And he says, how do you know all this? And he takes off his mask. And it is his father. He says, I am White Elk. He's been Lord Diablo this whole time. He's been right under everyone's nose, you know? So now the whole story's out. White Elk has very little time left. She knows he's going to die soon. And Cooper gets the snake treatment at the last minute. Then Anthony goes up because he's a wanted man. It's her job to hang him when the time comes. He wants her to kill him. He wants to pay off his debts in full so he can move on to the happy hunting ground. And he does. But of course, it's like, Anthony says, will you ever forgive me? And he's like, get out of here, go. So I guess their love can't continue. Even though White Elk wanted it that way. And Anthony leaves town. This is very Jodorowsky. He says, farewell, Bouncer. One day when the wounds have become scars, then perhaps I'll allow you to dominate me. Very odd. So Bouncer takes his dad out to the desert. And he is going to basically light him on fire. And then his father says, if you truly want to become the defender of this area, the guardian of the sacred land, you have to beat the shadow of the devil's hand. These rocks that look kind of like fingers. And as soon as the sun drops behind the mountains, he races his horse, and the shadows are catching up to him, as shadows are wont to do, and he makes it to this rock. So I guess he's the defender of the land now. And almost like Obi-Wan Kenobi, he sees the ghostly image of his father, who talks to him and gives him a farewell message. Basically says, you're the defender of the land. And then it looks like, Bouncer comes back to town. It looks like he's going to be settled down with Yun Li. That really does look like a hand. So we see this, a group of Native American, kind of look like warriors. And they arrive in town just as the new teacher arrives. Because the other teacher went off to marry Seth. Her name's Carolyn. And then we see this guy who looks like a Union soldier. All of his men look like they're real soldiers. But it turns out they're not. They're basically a bunch of mercenaries who do whatever they want. But they act like the authority around there. So they see the leader, Toro Negro, of this group of guys. And they're basically just exchanging threats and talking tough to each other. But then they just let him pass. So Toro Negro comes to Bouncer's saloon. And he's looking for him. And basically Toro Negro says, you're the son of White Elk, last of the Nacaches. You inherited his responsibility. You have to prove that you're worthy by fighting our greatest warrior. And so that's what happens. They have this big guy. They're knife fighting. It's very weird. He tells Job to tie his sleeve into a knot. As if that's going to be like an effective weapon. Because he doesn't have a fist to make. Strange. So Bouncer wins the fight, and it's all good. Well, it's not all good. It never is in Barrow City. So the teacher, Carolyn, and Bouncer exchange glances. And, of course, something's going to happen there. So Bouncer is getting a bath at Yun Li's bathhouse. They opened up a bathhouse. And he's introduced to Yun Li's fiance, who's this big, goofy guy. And obviously Yun Li does not love him. I'm sorry, Yin Li. I've been saying it wrong for a while. Yin Li doesn't love him, but the mother kind of said, oh, you have to marry and give me lots of grandchildren. And, Bouncer never really seemed to be that gaga over her, so he's like, congratulations. I like this where he says, stop comparing me to celestial bodies, because Yun Li keeps spotting this, like, pseudo-poetry at him. So then, once again, Blabbermouth shows up. And that guy, Captain Gallagher, we saw earlier, giving Toro Bravo shit, or whatever his name was. I guess They gave the Native Americans whiskey as a supposed gift, and then when they're all drunk, they're going to attack and annihilate them. So he's going to go rescue them. Bouncer's going to rescue them. And Bouncer shows up. Two of these guys are already trying to rape this Native American woman. And of course, he's not going to let that happen. But in the fight, even though he killed the two guys, he gets knocked out by a piece of rock. And the Native American woman pulls him on a wagon and takes him to be healed. Meanwhile, we meet Carolyn, the new teacher, at work. And it's weird. She's just like telling all the kids, like, this city is a dangerous place that attracts pieces of shit, basically. All the people in power here are just trying to rip off the miners and the farmers. The law is not respected. And the judge comes in right then. And the mayor and the sheriff and the preacher. So they don't like the way she's talking. And they tell her about, I'm sorry, guys. Her name's Evelyn, the school teacher. And then they talk about this woman, Mrs. Carolyn Harton. She's a wealthy widow. And she basically wants to own the entire territory. She already owns like 90% of the land. Of course, Evelyn stands up for the Native Americans who live on the land that she's going to take. And these guys say, we're not going to get in her way. She's associated with that Captain Gallagher. And it would be foolish to get in their way. She's also allied herself with a guy named Axehead, who we're about to meet in a second. This guy got an axe in his skull. I guess they couldn't operate on it, so it's just stuck in there. And it provokes periods of homicidal madness in him when it gets wiggled. And he's decided to enroll his 5 children in school. Even though he's this total brutal man, he doesn't want his kids to grow up to be ignorant. And so Axehead and a couple of his thugs come into the school. And they're totally like being sleazy and intimidating to the teacher. It's so weird. They're like, show us your legs, and she lifts up her skirt for him. And then she meets his kids. And these kids, man, I wish they had their own series of graphic novels. They're just these 5 little thugs. They're just complete little outlaws at the age of like 9. So back at the Indian village, that woman who put Bouncer on her wagon, she's healed him, bandaged him up. And then we see that guy, Toro Negro, again. And he's just totally drunk and demoralized. And Bouncer's like, come on, guys. They're going to attack you any second. And as soon as he says that, the Gatling guns start firing. It's the bad guys. Let me get a name real quick. Sorry, Captain Gallagher. I keep forgetting this guy's name. And so Bouncer and the woman escape by jumping down this well. And they end up in this underground river. And they just follow the current. Meanwhile, we see the 5 children, Axehead's kids. And they totally rob this bank. They kill these guards. It's just insane. These kids are so ruthless. They blow up the safe with dynamite, and they take all of this money and gold. We cut back to the underground river. It's quite a ride they're on. It's going down waterfalls, but they make it outside to this river, to the Colorado River. But now they've got to trek through the desert for days. They got no water. And then all of a sudden, Bouncer's horse shows up. They found him by a miracle. And so they ride the horse to Barrow City. We have a lot of interludes with Yinli's mother, who's just berating her, and the son-in-law is like, when are you going to give her a baby? I want 10 grandchildren. And she like keeps giving opium to her daughter, saying like, oh, this will make you more receptive to lovemaking. And it's like a running gag almost. So Job meets the woman, the Native American woman, and it seems like he falls in love with her. And she's like, I have to avenge my tribe. So the bad guys come into the saloon. And, of course, a big fight breaks out. And Bouncer kills like almost everyone, with Job's help, of course. And then, what's her name, actually? Oh, Sacagawea. Sacagawea scalps them all. Look at her face there. She's just so wants her revenge. So the other guys find him. And, Blabbermouth opens his big fat blabbermouth again. And, tells the bad guys, they rough him up a little bit, so he tells them where Sacagawea is and Bouncer. And then they all show up. But he's ready for him. Bouncer's ready for him. He basically put a big puddle of oil outside, so when the guys show up, they light it on fire, they ignite it, and they all go up in flames. Well, most of them. Now we cut away to Axehead's kids showing off the money to the dad. And they're heading out to Carolyn's house. And Axehead's complaining about the pain he feels. He's in constant pain because that axe in his head. And this is where Carolyn lives. Look at this amazing house in the middle of this canyon. It's almost like a surreal image. This beautiful Victorian mansion. And we meet Carolyn. And, you know, she's the richest woman in the territory. And she has this doctor who kind of is almost like her Igor. He's like her little toady servant. And Axehead brings the money to her. And basically he's like paying her off for her doctor to take the axe out of his head. But apparently he can't just yet. The heat has expanded or something, has expanded the metal. But he just freaks out. He goes into one of his homicidal rages. And then Marshall shows up. God damn it, that's not his name. I keep forgetting his name. But the leader of Captain Gallagher, he shows up. So basically it becomes this whole pissing match. Both Axehead and Gallagher are in love with Carolyn. And they're all just like, you're going to marry me once I take care of Bouncer. No, you'll marry me if I get you all that gold. So they're just arguing. We haven't even seen her face yet. Meanwhile, back at the bar, Job has taken Sacagawea under his wing. He's training her to be a bartender. He defends her against some asshole. And she agrees to marry him. The new teacher summons Bouncer to come visit her. And on the way there, Axehead's 5 kids try to take him out. And Bouncer's not having it. He's such a good shot, though. He just disarms them. He's not going to shoot a bunch of kids. And then the teacher basically seduces him. And she tells Bouncer that she knows about Carolyn. Carolyn Harton. Like, supposedly she's donates all this money. Everyone thinks she's great, but she's a true monster. When her husband died, he inherited an immense fortune. She's the woman I hate most in the world, even though she is my sister. Good God, your sister. So she basically wants Bouncer to, like, take her out. She's a devil who has to be stopped. And she says, I'm prepared to pay you. I don't have much money. And she takes off her clothes. And I guess she's wearing, at the time, that was like very racy lingerie. And she basically offers herself to him. And as Bouncer leaves, he's talking to Mocho, his dog. He says, oh man, she's just what I like. Beautiful and submissive. Now we're back in Chinatown. And the story of Lin Yi's husband comes to a head, where it turns out, finally, they get down to business. And it turns out he's a eunuch. He didn't want to be a eunuch in China. You know, they castrated him to sing opera. But he escaped. So, of course, the mother starts hitting him on the ends. Like, get out of here, you cheater. You totally tricked me. And so, this guy vows oh God, I can't remember his name, sorry. But he vows to chop off Bouncer's lychee nuts to castrate him. Because he knows, of course, that Lin Yi is in love with Bouncer. It's no secret. And so we see Bouncer in this beautiful scene here, just talking about, like, oh man, what kind of mess have I gotten myself into? I can't stop thinking about the teacher, about her. I can't believe I didn't even notice this when I was reading this last night. Look at the clouds in the sky, almost look like her face. And, well, I don't have to tell you what that looks like. And then these rocks look like two faces about to kiss. And then I can't believe I missed this one. Look at this. And he's just fantasizing about having sex with her. And so he's basically on his way to Carolyn's mansion in the desert. So after Axehead leaves to, like, do a mission for her, I think he's going to get all this gold so she can buy up more property. And she basically says, you know, I want you. Take me like a whore. This is your reward. And then right when he's on top of her, she pulls a gun out and blows his brains out. And then right there, Toro Negro shows up. And she shoots him too. I actually thought Toro Negro died in that massacre, but I guess he didn't. And of course, Bouncer's outside. He hears the firing. He goes inside. And it was all some kind of trick. Carolyn says, oh, help me. My men, they tried to rape me. Because I found out that they were using mean tactics to get people to sign over their land. I would have never agreed to that if I knew. She's totally lying. So now we finally see her face, but it's always in shadow. Turns out she has this big scar on her right eye. She says it's a result of a dispute between her husband before the husband died. So basically she has this underground spring and she's buying up all the land that the underground river goes under. She just needs the head of the spring. It's the only land she doesn't have, where the spring begins and starts this underground river. But it comes out on her property. So in the middle of this arid desert where no rain falls, she's got this Garden of Eden practically. She tells him her whole plan. She says, I could totally turn this area, this territory, into a beautiful paradise. If I can secure all the water rights, I will, this could be all beautiful farmland instead of arid desert. And now she seduces him. And he totally digs her too. He's such a horn dog. So guess where this underground river originates? Right under his nephew Seth's land. So she says, if you could convince your nephew, I will give you to myself. Sorry, I will give myself to you, body and soul. And he actually is thinking about it because he's such a horn dog. He just thinks with his dick so much. So now he's agreed to two sisters to kind of work at counter purposes. He's agreed to both of their demands because he wants to get laid from both of them. Once again, the Axe-Head's kids, they always do this trick where one of them acts like they're in trouble and one of the kids says, hey, could you help me, my brother? And then they just start killing him. So this stagecoach has got all this gold on it, and the five sons and Axe-Head and his men take him out. And there's the gold. And this is the gold that Carolyn's going to need to, finish her project. Build a big dam for all that water. It looks so ridiculous. Axe-Head. So they thought they killed everyone, but one of the guys survives, and he makes it to town, and he tells the sheriff, like, what happened and who did the deed. And then the castrata comes in. He's going to cut Bouncer's nuts off. And Lin Yi arrives and attacks him to stop it and stops him. But, oh yeah, and then all the whores there, they start joining in and kicking him and beating him up. But it's kind of a happy ending. They're like, because the guy's saying, no, everyone knows I have no balls now. Nobody will hire me. And she says, we'll hire you. You can work as a drag singer. It's better than the Peking Opera. Poor guy. And so Axe-Head shows up at Carolyn's with the gold. He's expecting his reward, which is basically her hand in marriage. He says, give me a little down payment, because she's like, you won't get all of me until you get rid of Seth and take his land. And she's disgusted. She's like, it's like kissing a jackal. So Bouncer's riding around. He's just like, what the hell am I going to do? So he goes to Seth and his wife, Deborah. Seth and Deborah's farm. And he's stinking drunk because he just can't deal with the reality he's put himself in. So he got really drunk. Meanwhile, Axe-Head, he's under the ground. He has a plan. He's like, they live right on top of this underground spring, this underground river. Why don't I just put a bunch of dynamite there and blow them to Kingdom Come? So that's what he's planning to do. There's the head of the river. It almost looks like some mystical god. And right above them, of course, are our heroes. Any minute, the whole place is going to blow. Luckily, the kid runs off to the river, and they're like, Abel! And so they all run out of the house at the same time, because they think Abel's going to get lost. And right then, the house blows up. And he kind of, after the fact, Bouncer says, yeah, don't sell Carolyn Hartland a damn thing. Don't sell your land to her. I mean, he was going to go either way, but now it's kind of moot. So he basically sides with Evelyn, the school teacher. Because that's what Evelyn wanted. So Axe-Head's the only one who survives the explosion. He used a little too much explosives, apparently. And basically says it kind of blocks the spring, the cave-in. Meanwhile, at the schoolhouse, the law come for the 5 kids, Accent's 5 kids. And everyone tries to protect them. But it's like, sorry, ma'am, step aside. These kids are like brutal murderers, which they are. So Bouncer goes to Miss Evelyn to the schoolhouse to claim his reward. And then she conks him on the head right when he's about to get with her. She runs outside. Meanwhile, in the jail, they're trying to get the kids to confess. They're whipping them. And after blowing up the spring, he's back at Carolyn's mansion. And he says, come here, baby. The job's done. And when they go outside, though, the doctor says, come here, quickly, something's happened. And she sees that everything's run dry. And he kind of admits that he screwed up. And she's like, you dumb asshole. You ruined everything. This is all for nothing, the past 5 years of work. Without the spring, it doesn't matter. So she's just yelling. She's done, trying to seduce him and whatever, trick him. She's just like, you're such a piece of shit. She's just totally insulting him. Calling him an idiot. And meanwhile, Diablo is sneaking up on the mansion. And so Accent's had enough of this shit. He's not used to being talked to that way. He starts slapping her around. And the doctor gets in the way. Turns out the doctor's totally in love with her too. And she shoots him right in the axe. And his pain just goes through the roof. He's like, it burns. Takes her body and throws it out the window. Well, through the window, but she's still like in the frame. And then Bouncer shows up. And he shoots Axehead once again right in his axe. And it knocks the axe out. Even though he's also been shot in the chest, so he's dying. But he says, my head, it don't hurt no more. And he kind of dies happy. And now we find the whole crazy story. This is just so Jodorowsky. The doctor tells him, he says, I'm shot. I don't have much longer to live, but I'll tell you what's going on here. And he says, go over to Carolyn over there. It's a fake scar. That's really Carolyn. Sorry, it's really Evelyn. It turns out they were in a freak show. They were conjoined twins, Evelyn and Carolyn. And one night they were attacked. Oh, no, I'm sorry. So Caroline, one night, stabbed her own face because she didn't want to be ogled anymore. Because basically their act was based on, like, the sex appeal of it. Like the crowd, the men would go wild in the crowd just trying to rape them. They had to have like 10 bodyguards. So Caroline was just like, I'm tired of this shit, being a seductress for these sex-starved drunks. And she stabbed her own eye out to make herself, less beautiful. The doctor who came to take care of her wounds looked over at Evelyn and fell in love with her on the spot. Right next to the sister while she's healing, he's making out with her. So he bought the sisters from the freak show, took them home to live with him, and married Evelyn. They're really in love. And then Carolyn's totally jealous. She's like, how come I can't find anyone to love? And she starts choking Evelyn. So Evelyn picks up these scissors and kills her own sister. The doctor comes home to find this and separates their bodies. And then she started identifying almost like becoming possessed by the spirit of Carolyn. She forced him to make the fake scar, and she demanded that I make mad love to her, but it did not satisfy her. She kept saying that I was only thinking of her as Evelyn, because it is Evelyn. And then one night, she doused him in alcohol and lit him on fire. And that is why this is the same doctor. That's why he looks like that. So it's such a sick psychosexual tale where he basically is her little toady manservant because he still loves Evelyn. Deep down, buried in this Carolyn persona, he's still totally in love with her, and he couldn't leave her. And as he dies, he crawls over and holds her in his arms. That's kind of sad. And so back at the jailhouse, the kids are like, Accent's kids are like, to the skinniest one, he's like, you can squeeze through the bars and escape and get help. The next morning, I don't even know if they do this in the Old West. They actually take the kids out, and they're going to hang them, the 4 remaining kids. Like as they're hanging them, one of them says, "Burn in hell, you old bastards." These kids are great. And the brother who escaped, I guess there was nothing he could do, and he's watching his brothers all hang. They thought Axehead, their father, would come to, rescue them. They don't know he's dead. And what happens is that kid, the remaining Axehead brood, he grabs Abel, Seth and Deborah's child, because everyone's there in town celebrating Job and Sacagawea's wedding. So he grabs Abel, and he's threatening his life. Luckily, Mocho once again is to the rescue, and he's just tearing him apart. He's like, "Stop, Mocho, he's dead." He's just tearing into his corpse. They don't really show it, though, so this is like one of the few times where it's like they show a little class. And once again, it looks like, okay, nothing worked out for me this time. I didn't get my dick wet, so you're looking pretty good, Yun Li. I guess I will, hang out with you some more until the next hot lady comes to town, and he'll probably ditch her again. He sees a reflection in a window, and he almost thinks it's Evelyn or Carolyn. He can't say which. And, I forgot to mention this. I love this. We see that Garden of Eden from before, and now it's just totally turned back to shitty desert, arid desert, without the spray. Just like all of her dreams. The Black Widow had come to an end, imprisoned in the web woven by her very own psyche. One thing's for sure, illicit dreams have surely killed more than the blade of the razor. The end. Oh, that's a good read. We get a nice little afterword from Claude Ekin. He's this French science fiction author, comic writer, critic. And that's it, guys. Wow, that was long. Sorry, but I think I'm justified. I try to gloss through this as quick as I could, but there's so much story in here. I mean, basically, there's like, 6 or 7 great stories in here. And each one is a total meaty, nice thing unto itself. But getting it all in one book, it's kind of overwhelming. But I like how it still has threads that pass through all of them, certain characters. So it does almost read like a huge epic. Hope you guys enjoyed looking at it. I understand if you tapped out before now and stopped watching. But like I say, this channel is mostly for me. I want to get all my comics documented before I die, because I have the finest comic collection west of the Mississippi River, and I want to show it off before I die. I don't know how much longer I got. But thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.